In Canada, human trafficking is largely a domestic and gender-related phenomenon. It disproportionately affects Indigenous, newcomer, and racialized women and 2S LGBTQI+ people. In this video, we will introduce key aspects of trafficking in persons and provide a succinct introduction to a complex phenomenon that is not yet fully understood. What is trafficking in persons? Human trafficking, also known as trafficking in persons, involves the recruitment, transportation, or harboring of persons for the purpose of exploitation. Beyond being a criminal activity, it is one of the most serious human rights violations. Human trafficking can take many forms and frequently intertwines with other actions, making it difficult to define and easy to conflate with other activities like migrant smuggling. In migrant smuggling, smugglers serve as intermediaries or facilitators for the transnational movement of people through irregularized routes. There is the express consent of the smuggled person, which entails an exchange, mostly economic, for the benefit of the smuggler and which is agreed upon before the journey. Unlike trafficking, the profit from smuggling is obtained from the facilitation of the movement of people and not from their subsequent exploitation. Hence, in principle, migrant smuggling terminates with arrival at the agreed destination, so prolonged or temporary exploitation is not a fundamental part of the crime as in the case of trafficking in persons. However, there are situations where trafficking and smuggling may be intertwined, a fact that also fuels the confusion of terms. In some cases, migrants and displaced people decide to put themselves in the hand of smugglers to leave their country of residence, and then, through subsequent coercion or deception, are subjected to trafficking. Generally, there are three main elements of trafficking in persons. 1. The act, which includes recruitment, transportation, transfer, harboring, or taking receipt of persons. 2. The use of certain coercive means, such as threat, force, any form of coercion, abduction, fraud, deception, abuse of power or a position of vulnerability, or giving or receiving payments or benefits. And 3. The purpose of the act is exploitation, which can take different forms. The protocol to prevent, suppress, and punish trafficking in persons, especially women and children, or the UNTIP protocol, is the main international instrument against human trafficking. It was adopted by the United Nations General Assembly in December 2000. The protocol was created within the framework of the development of the United Nations Convention Against Transnational Organized Crime. Canadian law goes beyond the scope of what is defined in the UNTIP protocol. While the protocol establishes exploitation as an essential element of the crime of trafficking, the Criminal Code of Canada does not require the objectively established act of exploitation to be a mandatory element of the offense. It is only necessary for the victim to have a, quote, reasonable belief that failure to comply with the demands of the trafficker would have jeopardized their safety, unquote. This is a citation from Roots 2013, page 30. Although the existing information is inaccurate and shows only a superficial overview of the problem, it is nonetheless alarming. TIP cases in Canada are increasing. Trafficking happens in big urban centers like Montreal, Toronto, and Calgary, as well as in small cities and rural communities. It affects almost every province of the country, with Ontario and Nova Scotia having the highest incidence of this crime. The definitional inconsistencies of TIP can affect data collection, in turn impacting research findings, and subsequently the development or improvements of measures aimed at fighting this crime. This problem is particularly evident at the level of national legislation, where definitional ambiguity can result in dissimilar judicial or legislative interpretations. Canada has developed a legislative and public policy framework to combat trafficking in persons. However, it focuses on enforcing the criminal justice system and border control measures, which effectively marginalizes responses addressing the multifactorial nature of human trafficking. One of the biggest challenges for the Canadian government is the collection of human trafficking data. There is no nationally held database that accurately depicts the prevalence of this crime. This is not only due to the underground nature of the problem, but also to methodological shortcomings in defining, measuring, and reporting this phenomenon. In conclusion, human trafficking is a crime that involves the recruitment, transportation, or harboring of persons for the purpose of exploitation. In Canada, it mostly takes place within our borders and disproportionately affects Indigenous and racialized women and 2S LGBTQI+ people. While it is often conflated with human smuggling, trafficking in persons is a different crime.